told me that they had called you, and they talked to you over the phone.
Yeah, that's right. And I was going to call my brother Harold, but they couldn't think of the number, and they called him first. So they got to talk to him. So
Yeah.
I didn't call him.
Well, this is your boat here, huh? This is
That's the old Edramar. That's the modern glad little embroidered on. That's the boat that you can tell.
Shirley.
You can tell Shirley. You can say, "Well, I seen the boat you went on, all right."
Yes, you'll remember it from this model.
Yeah, she had
Yeah.
to see.
What was the name of the boat?
Edramar. You see, Edward is the oldest one.
Oh yeah.
No, Margie's the oldest. But you see, Margie is Edward, Edromar. The wife always said that she wasn't in it. I said, well, sure, she's named Myrtle. But she always said, no, I'm not in it. So it was Edward and Margie. And Melrose too, see, hers was them.
Yeah.
And so that's what my wife used to always say, no, I'm not in it, you know. But that boat, Edward can tell you, because he went many times with me on the boat.
Yeah.
And that boat looks exactly like the original.
Who made the model?
Huh?
Who made the model?
Johnny, Margie's husband.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Dick died. First husband, Matlock, and she married again. He named Johnny, and Johnny
Bridges.
Johnny Bridges.
Bridges. Well, so I didn't know he was such a good cop. You know, he built the boat and he sold it.
Yeah.
But so I didn't know a thing about this model.
Yeah.
And on my 88th birthday, they gathered out that table out there, and they presented it to me.
Well, that was great.
Like I said, it looks exactly like it. And Lillian had to take me down so many times to show different ones, because it's so natural, you know. I tell you, it's only one thing is deficient. And Jason broke it off. Little.
Oh yeah.
I had a little top off.
Right. Yeah. A little light. The top light.
You know, it was like a cross street light.
Yeah.
And Jason, Chip got after him, you know. See, they stayed there 2 years with me. And you know, so we got the house built.
Yeah.
And Jason East Ruff, you know, he's a little grandson. And I want to tell you.
Well, tell me about some of the people that you had out on this boat when you were fishing it years ago. Who all did you have out on this boat? I hear you had a couple of presidents out here fishing and all that. Is that right?
Who?
Did you have a couple of presidents out here fishing? You used to be in charge.
I tell you, President Roosevelt fished with me, you know, in my early days.
Yeah.
But I didn't have this boat.
You didn't have this one then?
No,
you had another one.
He knew I was having it built, you know, and when he came back, he told my mother, he says, see, Edward was a baby.
Yeah.
And he developed rickets building this boat.
Yeah.
My wife didn't tell me. She said she shed tears looking at him, you know. He was such a fine baby, and he was born 9 pounds and a half big.
Wow.
And, so he started losing, and she wouldn't tell me, but she'd seen some pictures taken after that, because he picked up after that.
Yeah.
Well, when I got the boat built, we had no mechanics there, you know, that day. And we had no machine shop. And I bought this, it was a rum runner. You know, I had this engine put in that brand new Bridgeport in there. She was only 2-cylinder, it was heavy duty.
Yeah.
And it was only, so the old man, she sprung a leak out there somewhere, and she had colored people running her.
Yeah.
And some young Jew in Miami, I think, owned it. And so he came in to plant her up there, a mile above there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this man was working with me on the boat. He said to me, we called him old Wilkerson. He fought Indian. He was a good ship captain. And he said to me, he says, you know, Rodney, he says, you ought to go up and look at that boat, says, because, she was a German lifeboat one.
Yeah.
2 double end, she's bigger than one I've built.
Yeah.
And he said to me, why don't you go up there and look at that engine? It says, look like it's a new one. Well, he knew my money was pretty well run out, you know.
Yeah.
And I went up there, and the tire was low. She started leaking. He couldn't fix it very good, because she was planked 2 different ways, you know.
Yeah.
And so he patched some, you know, and he put the anchor around. She started leaking fill up water again.
Uh-huh.
So they brought her in, and so she was heading out. When I went up there low tide,
Yeah.
and when I opened the base plates, the oil run out. So I looked it over, and I could see, like, she looks so good. The only thing is they had the head off one time, and it broke the paint. There was a bit of rust on it.
Uh-huh.
So I sat down before I did anything, wrote the company,
Uh-huh.
and he said, the engine hasn't been left the factory up quite a year yet. And he said, so I wrote the man, I said, how much you want for it? Oh, he said he wanted $350. Well, I told him, I said, I don't need the boat. I said, because I get a boat partly finished. All I want's the motor.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, offered him $250 and he accepted it.
Yeah.
So when I sent him the check, he said to me, he said, oh, well, since you bought the motor, says the boat will be no good, you can have the whole thing. So I got it, a hurricane came that same year, 26,
Uh-huh.
and she went to up the bushes and broke up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I took the engine and cleaned it all up.
Uh-huh.
So when I got it ready, and ready to put the boat aboard, the
Uh-huh.
9th of January, I believe,
Uh-huh.
in 76.
Uh-huh.
26 of me. Why, I got all ready, but the engine I hadn't got it to run because they had a buster on there. And the magneto was wet, ruined, so I had no way of starting them.
Uh-huh.
Well, so no mechanics there, but the engine was sitting, we put her in, fastened her down, everything, coupled her up and all. So my brother-in-law, Charlie, Florence, was just recently passed away, and says, I tell you, I'll tow you up there.
Uh-huh.
Well, he did. He towed me up there, and we went up on him, got up there and
When
stayed
you towed you up where, to Miami?
Miami.
Towed you all the way to Miami?
Yeah, and,
Uh-huh.
and went to Dr. Kennan. He was a baby specialist,
Uh-huh.
and he looked at Edward, and Edward was nothing but a frail, that's all.
Uh-huh.
And he said to me, I said, well, doctor, what do you think about it? He says, well, see, Edward was the second child, and I was worried. Oh, he said, I had voice cases in him. He says, and brought him through all right. So he did, and he started 2 weeks after, and he picked up, so we had to get up 2 o'clock in the morning,
Uh-huh.
one time, and fix his warm carnation milk.
Yeah.
And Edward started to pick up. In 2 weeks, I said, doctor, how about going back home? Oh, he says, oh, no, you can't take the baby down to the woods, but since
Yeah.
then he bought a
Yeah.
place down there.
Uh-huh.
And so I was up there, so my money was run out, because I intended to go fishing, got the boat all fixed up, and put a distributor on it, you see, on the handle tail shaft.
Yeah.
So all I used was a hot shot, and then she'd jump on the magnet and bought a new magnet, and run like a sewing machine.
Uh-huh.
Well, so I was broke, and my money was gone, so my brother Harold, who's still living,
Uh-huh.
was building a place for Roger on 7th Avenue, out to the Bowling Green. And he said to me, he said, do you want to work to help me to get, he said, I'm going back down the Keys. I said, yeah, I'll be glad of it, because I think got 70 cents an hour. I thought that was big money.
Uh-huh.
I went to work, and I think I was making $7 a day per hour.
Uh-huh.
But we put in long hours, to finish that house. And so he told me, he says, well, I'm tell you, I'm decided to go back down there. See, he sold the place there?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But my mother in those gave him another P road out at the road.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he says, I'm going to go back down the Keys.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, all right, we got plenty of room for you. So I moved in, all these things. He didn't build a home, but he had a tent he used to live in.
Yeah.
They had a lot, but he didn't know what to decide. Things got so bad.
And that was Harold then?
I was Harold.
Uh-huh.
He's still living.
Yeah. I'm going to go up there and see him. I met Harold before.
You met Harold?
Uh-huh. Harold. Yeah, I met Harold. Well, where was that house in Miami that you were building? Northwest 7th Street and what avenue?
Where we were building 7th Avenue.
7th Avenue?
It's called Bowling Green Avenue.
And 7th Street, was it? Or right on 7th Avenue?
No, it was on 7th Avenue. I'm trying to think where it
What
was.
street?
The other place is called Bowling Green.
No, it's a subdivision. It's probably.
Well, that's where it was.
Uh-huh.
And see, Harold, Roger owned this lot.
Uh-huh.
And he said, there's pretty good rent up there in days. I mean, demand for it.
Yeah.
And he said to Harold, he said, do you want to build a place a lot for me on my lot up there? And Harold took the job.
Uh-huh.
But of course, after Dr. Kennan, I couldn't come back. See, I intended to go charter fishing.
Yeah.
My boat was ready, But there I was up there, and I was used to those waters, because I'd mackerel fished previous, but I didn't have no business worked up nothing, so I said, well, my money was all going out, my back was tied up in that boat, and I expected to get to work. Well, I didn't do it, so I told Harold, I said, yeah, I'll help you, so I went to work, carpenter work, and we finished the house. So when I got through with it, he moved back down in
here.
March of 26. And,
well, was that before the hurricane or after the hurricane?
Oh yeah, 1926.
That was before the hurricane that Harold came down.
The hurricane was in 35. So
I mean the 1926 hurricane in Miami. The one that hit Miami in 1926. You don't remember that one?
Let's see. Yeah, sure, I know that one. This was before then.
That was before, because that thing hit in
That's
October.
The same year. That's
the same year. That hurricane hit Miami in October of 1926.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was in,
so you were already back down here then?
Yeah, I was back down there then. The boat, I tell you the truth, I said how lucky I was, because in 25, we started the boat in April, we didn't get her overboard. See, it was all by hand, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't have no equipment. And I drug them big roots out of the bushes, you know.
Yeah.
I thought our frame was Madeira, mahogany. So we had to rip them open over because of the ripsaw.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have no electricity, you see. So a long time done, I didn't get her overboard until April, next year in January.
Yeah.
It was all slow work, you know, putting her up. And so the boat was being built, but Mr. Roosevelt started with me in 23, I guess it was. And I think it was three seasons I guess he fished with.
Yeah.
But when he left there in 1925, well, he was there in that winter, you know.
Yeah.
And so I started to build a boat in April. But I told him next year, when he come back, he'd come here to look for it, you know. So Mama says, I'm come to go in a new boat. And Mama says, I'm awful sorry. I tell him, says, Rodney he had trouble, says, you know, says the baby, the boat's finished, took her to Miami, and he says, she told him, says he had to step at the baby specialist, and so he didn't get to fish.
And that was Teddy Roosevelt?
No, that was Franklin D.
That was Franklin D.
Yeah.
Before he became president.
Oh yeah, he was. I don't think he was Secretary of the Navy then. He told me that he was in business with Mr. Lawrence, and they were banking business. And he told me, he said, that's what this boat named after, Lawrence Roosevelt, Jane Ruka. And she was a big houseboat, yacht she was, big house on her, because he was crippled, you know.
Yeah.
And he lived up in the Paladar, and he had a 1-inch rope with a ring on it. And when he'd get hold of that, you know, he's strong in his arms are big, and he'd sing up, they'd show him over the side, and his legs would dangle all around, and he'd lower himself down the boat.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now some people
Now what, you went out here in the Gulf Stream then too, caught sailfish and all that stuff back in those days, huh?
Yeah, well now them days we didn't bother much. The mackerel was so thick and other things on the reef, and I want to tell you it was a sport. Because while I was gone, Uncle Leonard took him. Uncle Leonard was in the charter. That Mom was old, his brother. But him and Eugene, his son, both was charter fishing. And when I got back, well, that's who he went with, Uncle Leonard. And Uncle Leonard told me, Rodney, he says, you know, Mr. Roosevelt's a sport, or I said, you can believe that. And he come out we go out about 10 o'clock, and when we get out there, I fish till about 12, a little after. He'd say, now, Mr. Albury, he says, you look for a good place to anchor. So because we're going to anchor somewhere it's quiet, we can sit down and eat our lunch. And I would, again, live mostly on the pickled reef. It was quiet, you know, and we'd sit there and eat our lunch. And I noticed he was so bright, you know. Miss Lahan was he's proud of his secretary. She was a beautiful woman. And the captain's wife was cook, Mrs. Morris. Captain Morris was captain of the boat. He didn't have no crew, just them others. And I know that he went to Captain Morris sometime. But I noticed when we Hank, you know, I get through eating, why, no matter what question that she'd ask him, anybody'd say, whether it's the elements, you know, any foreign country or whatever it was, he'd quick as I didn't answer it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he was awful bright, but Lord, I didn't think he'd be president, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, after, when I got home, I'm going to tell him, I said, and I never seen him anymore. I tell you why, because that hurricane came and his boat got destroyed in the yacht base up to Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, yeah.
1926.
Uh-huh.
But I talked to him before he went, you know,
Uh-huh.
and took him up there, and he caught a train from out of Miami.
Uh-huh.
And because he wanted to put up a little bit of money and wanted me to start a dock over there.
I see.
Water and everything, and
Yeah.
gasoline. So I come back and I couldn't get Papa and a bit interested, so I wrote him thank you for it.
Yeah.
Well, so later on in the year, I heard he would run for president. And when he did, I wrote a letter. And I wrote, and I told him, I said, Mr. Roosevelt, I said, because he loved Taverner, you know.
Yeah.
This is where he got his first experience for that Warm Spring, Georgia, I believe, because he used to lay in the sun over there on the beach,
Uh-huh.
spotted beach on the bayside.
Yeah.
And that's what done him a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, Mr. Roosevelt, I said, I know that you love Tavernier. I said, you know Tavernier's on that little dot. I said, on the map, I said, of course, whatever it is, I'll do my best for you. Because I was to be one inspector.
Yeah.
I became clerk later on, but I was inspector then.
Uh-huh.
And we was up to Key Largo. And I wrote the letter, you know, and so when election day came, Tuesday, was up there, and my brother Harold was, my brother Charlie, Florence husband,
Uh-huh.
one told me up there, he was
Yeah.
on the polls too, he won inspector.
Uh-huh.
And I think George Aubrey was clerk. And Mr. Garrett's place, mosquitoes nearly killed us at count. Had the old ballots, you know,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and it'd be a great big long thing that take every bit of it down. But anyway, that night when it got through, during that afternoon, when the mayor came that day, this letter was in there.
Uh-huh.
I answered him, but I wrote it. And he wrote back and he said to me, this is the word he said, Dear Mr. Aubrey. Oh, he told me, he said, no, that's when he wrote me a note sent down on key. He said, he thanked me for it, you know, for my good wishes and all.
Uh-huh.
And if I'd have kept that, it would become valuable because she was offering good money after he passed away, but I didn't know what happened. I guess I lost it in the 35 hurricane. But anyway, what I had in mind was, the last trip he was here, he got broke down when his motors went to the bad.
Uh-huh.
And he wrote me a note and set it up on the freight train. And the conductor passed it, threw it off to me. And this is the way it read. He said, Dear Mr. Aubrey, come and save all the lives. He used to say funny things. You know?
Yeah.
And he's very sociable.
Uh-huh.
And I told the people, when I got that letter, I'm saying, now, I'm going to tell you, if he becomes president, it won't go to his head, I can tell you that. I said, because I know him personally. And I said, and he got the name of Laughing, Smiling Franklin, I believe.
Is that right?
Whatever we call
Yeah.
it. And that's the way he was. He was very sociable. And like I said, in that letter, he did take time to write me. It was in his letter. His name was signed at the bottom. I knew his signature because he used to make me checks.
Yeah.
But of course, the stenographer wrote his letter.
Yeah.
You know, that's the word he thanked me for it. You know, and believe me, that night, it was such a landslide. A lot of people in the boat I started talking about, I found out they didn't agree with me. They didn't like him, you know.
Yeah.
Said he spent too much money.
Yeah.
But believe me, this country was in bad shape, and he brought it out.
He sure did, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did. And I liked Mr. Roosevelt, and he treated me fine. And like I said, and he left the boat at Miami. Well, I never seen him anymore until when he became president. And we heard he was going to be a maneuver in Key West, you know?
Yeah.
In the Caribbean Sea, rather.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to pick him up there.
Uh-huh.
And he was motorcade, and we knew he was coming through. And my wife and I walked out there, and I'm always been sorry that I didn't go right to the edge of the road. Because I feel sure, as well as he knew me, all he had to do was stop.
Yeah.
He stopped and shook hands, and he did
sure
wave to me.
Yeah.
And then when he got there, I yelled out, hey, I am Mr. Roosevelt, and President Roosevelt, I call him.
Yeah.
And my wife says, oh, Rodney. I said, well, you know, he's used to me. I said,
Yeah.
sure. And I've always been sorry. And he went to Key West and went on that maneuver, and I never did get to see him anymore. I never talked to him.
Yeah.
So he went through, but he was the only man I ever knew of was president 3 times.
Yeah,
They broke the
he's
Constitution.
the only one, yeah,
And so, but I want to tell you, he was a swell man, no question about it. And I enjoyed my, I don't know, I think it was 23, 24, and 25. You see, he fished that year, 25.
Yeah.
In the winter, you know. See, I started the boat in April, and I told him I could build a boat.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a rowboat until the next January.
Now, when you went fishing out here, you fished mainly on the reefs. You didn't go in the real deep water.
Well, yeah, days there was so much fishing on the reef.
So much
I didn't
fish.
have to go nowhere.
You didn't have to go anywhere.
I didn't have no
You could fish in 18, 20 feet of water.
Huh?
You fish generally in 18 or 20 feet
Oh yeah,
of water.
sometimes less than that too.
And catch all the snapper and grouper
and grouper and snapper.
And mackerel and...
Yeah, and it bars on, you know. He'd get tired of pulling me out there.
Yeah.
He was good and strong, you know.
Yeah.
He had his own outfit. I didn't have no rods and reels.
Yeah.
And hand lines, all I could have.
Uh-huh.
And when Captain Morris came out there, he anchored on the bay side.
Yeah.
And Captain Morris came to the post office and told my brother Merlin, says, there's a man over Mr. Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He's on a yacht over there. And I come out to see if anybody around there had a boat could take him fishing. And he says, well, my brother's got a boat. She was a double end, you know. But I wasn't entered into that business then altogether. He says, I guess he could. So he talked to me. I said, yes. He said, all right, we'll bring him around in a little boat. Well, sure, I remember that white hat he had. He had duck hats, you know, green on his head.
Yeah.
And when he get in, down he looked, if he seen anybody out in the yard, he'd start waving. But he couldn't get out of the boat.
Yeah.
You know, he couldn't walk.
Yeah.
We'd get him out of there and transfer him into my boat. I'd lift his legs, you know, and he'd get on his hands, you know, he's strong.
Yeah.
And he'd sit down in that seat, and away we'd go. Sometimes Captain Morris would be there, Mrs. Morris, and Miss Lehan should go with us sometime. But he had he had an ex-president of Pennsylvania, Gifford, I believe his name was down there with him. He had a couple of them. You know, his guests. And he brought him in to go with me. See, he fished there several seasons, but he'd always, none of his children he ever brought here. He'd always pick them up to Long Key because, see, Long Key was a stop station for that early passenger train. Because I worked there in later, 1926. And, no, I mean, I worked down there in 1909. And after 9 hours, you know, 1910 I guess it was, I worked down Long Key, and they had a nice place there, and a lot of boats.
Yeah.
Because I went down and ran a boat for him, you know, but I didn't know this boat then. And so I knew that, but he'd always stop at Long Key, and he'd go over to take his family, his children. Mrs. Roosevelt never came with. She never did. I never got to know her. Miss Lehan was with him.
Yeah.
And Captain Morris' wife. But Mrs. Roosevelt, the children came. So one time, I had a piece of that Baltic wood around there for a long time, and he made boats for his little ones, you know.
Yeah.
Boy went on to become mayor of Miami Beach, I think. But then, as he grew up.
Yeah, right.
But then boys, there was 5 of them, 4 children, because he had 1 daughter and 4 boys, or 3 boys. But anyway, I never did see him, but he bought some of that wood and gave it to me, and he was telling me about it. But I never did get to meet one of them.
Yeah.
So I just knew him and some of his guests, that's all. But I can say one thing about Mr. Roosevelt. He was a very friendly man. And a lot of people didn't like him, but like I said a while ago, things would get pretty bad, but he really did bring it out. I know he spent plenty of money, sure.
Yeah, he had to bring this country out.
That's what we need today.
How much property did your father?
Huh?
How much property here did your father?
Well, I'm gonna tell you.
Did you have originally? You homesteaded here.
They had 140 or 45 acres.
Is that right?
Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa Albury and Papa was the one that homesteaded.
Yeah.
And they lived right over there by that house,
Uh-huh.
that big sea grape tree, that stuff. And he said that, I might even say that Uncle Joe was going to school in Kew, he was the youngest one. Uncle John never did come up there, he worked in the sponge room. So Uncle Albury, he was the oldest, but he had a little schooner named a Ferry, and he was sponging. So really it was only Papa and Grandpa, and they homesteaded 145 acres,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Right here in town here.
It reached from there nearly up to Prada.
Uh-huh.
And then,
Now these are pictures of your mother and father.
oh yeah, sure.
This is a picture of your mother and father right here, huh?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll be
Oh, yeah.
I say there's Edward.
That is
Oh,
a
yeah.
beautiful picture.
You know, my mother always kept Papa said, you know what she said? She said the doctor told Papa that I don't think you'll have much longer. She was so delicate, you know.
Uh-huh.
She didn't weigh 100 pounds before she was married.
Is that
She
right?
said, and just think, raised a family of 10 of us.
10 of you.
That's right.
How old was she?
And she lived to be 80?
She lived to be 86.
86 years old.
86 and 87, because I said to myself, she was the oldest one in the family.
Uh-huh.
And I'm the oldest now. And
Yeah.
none of my in-laws, brother-in-law,
Uh-huh.
uncles, and nobody lived as long as I'm living.
Well, let me ask you another thing. When you had that 145 acres here, you had to grow your own food, didn't you? Did you plant a garden and so forth?
Oh yeah, we used to grow tomatoes. In wintertime, that's what the livelihood.
Uh-huh.
Papa and them would grow tomatoes.
Yeah.
But they planted mangoes over that, avocados,
Uh-huh.
not much for them.
Uh-huh.
And then finally limes, you know.
But
and
your own
grapefruit
food.
and oranges.
Yeah.
Well, but in wintertime, I tell you, pineapples was one of the special.
Main thing.
That was the first thing.
Uh-huh.
But the pineapple played out more. When I came along, most of it was over.
Uh-huh.
Because I might even say, before then, that them big schooners would come from New York
Yeah.
down there.
And pick up the
they
pineapples.
You know, they do too much water.
Uh-huh.
Nowhere for them to land. And people would carry them out in a little boat.
In their rowboats.
And they'd bomb and throw them in that schooner,
I see.
then go to New York.
Uh-huh.
But when I came along, the last place,
Now that was before you were born even.
oh
huh?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now when I came along,
Uh-huh.
the last pineapple grove they had, as a woman spoke about it, I wish I'd have told her, where the blue water is up there, that's this place up there between here and Plata. It's all them trailers and everything still
Uh-huh.
there.
Yeah.
That was their last pineapple field right
That was
there.
about a half a mile from here then.
Yeah.
Down by Harry Harris Park or past
They're
that?
going north.
Going north.
Yeah,
further
we
than
turn to go out to Plata. When you go to Plata,
that. Uh-huh.
you go right along the north side of it.
Uh-huh.
All this place there with them trailers,
Uh-huh.
that is named Blue Water.
Right.
But right there was Papa Nan's pineapple grove.
Uh-huh.
And this woman Sunday was wanting to know, how did you plant them? I said, well, I had a walking stick. I said, I got one now, something like that. I said, I didn't tell her. We went in the woods and got it, out of crabwood as a root.
Yeah.
And we used the root for an animal. Just like, I made several of them for walking things. They're beautiful wood. And so, not the one I got now.
Yeah.
So I got one out there with that crooked handle. We grew that with the root. It's a handle. And the end of it, we had to have iron on it because, just for planting tomatoes, sometimes we didn't do it. But I had one made for tomatoes
Uh-huh.
because you could loosen up the loose rocks, and
Yeah.
everything.
Uh-huh.
Well, I told her, I said, well, how did they plant these pineapple? I said, well, I'm going to tell you. And they cut the land down, and they'd burn it. The more ashes was in there, the better it was. Because then they didn't use no fertilizer, and the ashes would be over the ground.
Potash.
They'd burn it,
Uh-huh.
that's rule in August, July.
Yeah.
And after they'd burn it, and get a good rain, and ashes would wash down. He said, where to get the plant? I said, well, around the pineapple. Now, down to the bottom of it would be what they call a sucker.
Uh-huh.
They'd break one of them loose. That'd fruit quicker.
Uh-huh.
But now, like that, around the pineapple would be all these little shoots,
Yeah.
Because sometimes it'd be the other way around, and they'd break one off and throw it down, so they get the knife that hit that joint to break the
Uh-huh.
pine.
Uh-huh.
Now, they'd leave them there till they got big enough like that, and when the time had come to set them out, they'd take them things, carry them in there, they'd trim the end of them, I think,
Uh-huh.
and the album thrown all over the ground, and colored man mostly planted, and he'd take them, the stick, you know, you see him wadding down, they don't put them about 18 inches apart.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, right where them trailers is up there now, I seen them slips that take you nearly up to your waist. 'Cause they used to wear
Pineapples were that high, huh?
Yeah, it was a beautiful place,
Uh-huh.
pineapple.
Yeah.
And I telling everybody, they used to wear canvas pants.
So it wouldn't tear them up.
And they had a loop under the foot, had the holes worked in the side of the pants.
Uh-huh.
Because then all them blades sticking out was full like a saw, you know?
Right.
A little prickle. And if you
Your
come
feet.
by, you'd be full of prickle.
Right.
And he'd be sticking all in your
Yeah.
trout.
Uh-huh.
And that's what they used to wear.
And those
Now-
pineapples grew right out of that rock ground.
Yeah, right in outside. You would never believe, no fertilizer. But of course, they could do it today, I guess, if
Yeah,
they use
I
fertilizer.
guess they could.
But the ashes, I suppose, what did it.
Uh-huh.
People said, well, why did they quit doing it? I said, well, I'm going to tell you why. The land, it took good land, virgin emerald.
Yeah.
The land started to clear out. But that wasn't the main reason. Cuba started to grow so extensive,
Yeah.
and labor was cheap and everything.
Uh-huh.
Why, they couldn't compete with it around there, so people quit planting them.
Right.
And they went in more for tomatoes
Uh-huh.
and limes and things like that. But we used to, years ago, like I said, before my time, was the biggest portion. I remember, I told it, handed it down to people because I knew about it, but I never experienced it.
Uh-huh.
But I come in time to see some of it. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, I was so little that we had to bring them from there out to the dock, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that colored man, of course, they'd fill these big baskets full,
Yeah.
put them on the head and going out.
Uh-huh.
But us boys, you see, we were taking them out for 2 cents a dozen. That's what we used to get, 2
Is
cents
that
a
right?
dozen to carry them out.
Yeah.
I used to have a sack. Well, first of the season, well, the pines was bigger, you know, but later on in the season, it dwindled down a little bit,
Yeah.
and I could carry out a dozen or more.
Uh-huh.
But they were so big that first of the season, I could only carry 9. And I walked way out the dock, and it didn't make 2 cents. I always remember when these little books, Dr. Pierce, a little account book, you know,
Yeah.
and a pencil, and when I get out the dock, when I'd get 12 out there, you'd call them up, you know, why, I'd say I was 2 cents. When out there in the season, I'd have a few dollars made, and I thought I was rich.
Yeah.
Now, these colored men, they were getting $1.75 a day, I think it was,
Uh-huh.
big money. And they throw all that little stuff, you know, because they didn't make any difference. They only get paid for the day.
Yeah.
And they do that to throw them down.
Uh-huh.
Well, they bring them, put them in a boat, and bring them down to the dock over there, on the point over there. And they had a tent rigged on the top of it,
Uh-huh.
as in my time, of course.
Yeah.
And then they, like where these trailers are up there now.
Yeah.
And they'd bring them there, and they'd pack them in crates. There was a long crate with a middle in it.
Uh-huh.
And they'd wrap them up and pack them and ship them.
Uh-huh.
And out in front of the plant, there was a pearhead out there. And we used to have a side wheeler. The first one came here with the name of the city of Richmond. She came from Richmond, Virginia.
Oh.
She was side wheeler.
Yeah.
And they had a contract to run the mail.
Uh-huh.
Well, of course, they built this pearhead out there for people. If it was good weather, well, they just board it, you know.
Uh-huh.
They'd go up the side and she'd stop to the mail and put the passenger above. And now if we had any freight to go, well, she'd come up to the old pearhead, you see, and pick it up. Because I remember that 3 or 4 piling driven each together and chain round them.
Yeah.
That was part of that again, because she'd knock the glue in it. It was a place about, 15 feet square, something.
Uh-huh.
Big,
Well, had they dredged that up
I
there,
mean-
or was it naturally deep enough to take
Oh,
that
no, the
boat?
water's deep enough. There's
I
about 12
see.
feet there.
Oh, I see.
With piling, they drove piling down
Uh-huh.
there
Yeah.
in that sand there, and built this house on it, and it called it a pearhead, and that's where she used to pull up. We're popping them in them days, Uncle Joe'd pack them. He used to do the packing. They'd pack them and nail them up and stencil them where we could send them to in New York, and carry 'em, that boat would carry them to Key West, and on the ship them on out, and Mallory Company.
Uh-huh.
Mallory line.
The Mallory lines, yeah,
Yeah.
right down on the
Well, later on, they
waterfront.
had the Clyde line, my
Yeah, right.
Because
Uh-huh.
when it started to grow to natives, I used to ship both ways. But the Clyde line was cheaper.
Uh-huh.
And I think it used to cost about 7 cents a crate. to, you know,
To ship them?
I mean, to get them down there.
Oh, I see, yeah, to ship them
Uncle
down.
Sam, my uncle was on the freight boat rim.
Was that the Island Queen, the freight boat?
Well, Island Home. That
Island
was the
Home.
last, but the first was the Rural.
Uh-huh,
And I become third owner of her.
uh-huh.
But in them days, you know, she was a clipper. Mr. Sam Lowe built her, and she had 2 spars in her. She was 19
Sam Lowe
tons.
built the boat?
Huh?
Sam Lowe built the boat?
Yeah, he named Sam Lowe.
Uh-huh,
And he had his own dock in Key West.
uh-huh,
And the Rural was a real good sailor.
yeah.
And Uncle Sam Williams started to run her. And he used to have her loaded with tomatoes, you know, stowed right up,
Uh-huh.
filled up all the cabin and everything. She was 19 tons, she had a cabin built all over, you know.
Was the Island Home bigger or
Well,
smaller?
I don't know, it was 43 tons.
That was a
Mr.
bigger
Johnny
boat
Pitt had
then.
up built pineapples, you know.
Uh-huh,
And then after that, he turned her, Uncle Sam running for years and years.
uh-huh.
She was a big sailing schooner. She was 43 tons.
And
But
Uncle,
the island, I mean, the old one we had, the Rural, she was only 19 tons.
uh-huh,
And so I become third owner because in the later years, well, when I went into the macrofish business,
uh-huh,
Arthur Goodman bought her.
uh-huh.
She went through a hurricane and damaged it pretty bad. And I had her on the West Coast, and he put a 25 horsepower engine in her. So we went into the business. We got greedy odds, you know.
You gotta take a pill here.
Here, here's your water.
Time for the medicine.
That's
Thank
Tagaman for his stomach.
Oh, yeah, Tagamet, yeah, that's good, uh-huh.
They're very expensive, I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah, I
dear.
give it to him.
So you actually took ownership of the Rural then, huh?
Yeah, my brother-in-law and his brother,
Uh-huh,
we were fishing the Southern Fish Company, and 2 cents a pound we were getting.
yeah,
And so we thought, well, Raymond was handling the net. I knew how to handle it too. So he said to me, we talked it up, you know, we said we could borrow money and we could go into the business ourselves. Well, I did. Papa had a place in Key West and he mortgaged it to Mr. Dunham over and got the money for my third. And Raymond and Mr. Tom Johnson both was living in Miami.
uh-huh,
And they did the same thing on it. They mortgaged and got the money.
uh-huh,
I think $2,900 we put into it. See, I had a little launch anyway,
uh-huh,
big enough to handle half the net, and Raymond had it down to Jim. She could take that, see that big person had half one in each one, and so it made it, that's the way we go already, you know, and
They're here. Boy, they're early.
They're here for you now?
Yeah, they're
So
early.
what kind of fishing did you do, mackerel fishing?
oh yeah, that's what it was.
That's what you did, you mackerel fished with that,
That's all we were doing. Well, of course, bluefish too, if we found
Yeah.
it.
Are you going to lunch?
Huh?
Are you
Yeah.
gonna go?
Okay, I'll shut this off now, and you
Oh,
go
you've
on.
been- Have you been getting it?
Did you ever see a smiling Jesus?
Have
Hmm?
you got one?
Right up there.
I'm taking a picture of the post office that's happening here. This is where Edward works over the post office. Right on down. Now you can see the highway right in town here. And right on around the other direction. That's where it's all over on the house. I want to get on down and take a better picture of it from the other way so you can see the cistern still in the backyard. I'm going to take a picture of the cistern. There it is, you can see it. Zoom in on it. That's where all the water comes off the roof, the rain gutter. Running water downstairs in the kitchen or upstairs. Okay, now you're on the camera. Ms. Pryor, can I swing this around and take your picture just for a moment?
Oh, all right.
Huh?
You want me to sit down?
That'd be fine, sure. Uh-huh. Okay,
I
I'm
may
gonna
be a
swing
little
this
more
around
relaxed.
and show Ms. Pryor. Mrs. Pryor, this is Ms. Pryor's house that we're in here now. How long have you lived here, Ms. Pryor?
Since '54.
And this house was brand new then?
It was built and my sister lived in it. It was finished in '49.
Uh-huh.
And she lived in it 4 years, and
I
then
see.
I retired and came down
Uh-huh.
from Baltimore.
Then you've seen a lot of changes since you've been here, haven't you?
Yes, this house and was the only one, was the first house out in this area.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It and this is Planters, you know that.
Yes, right. Uh-huh. And this, what is that, a subdivision called Planters?
Well, it's just this area.
Is called
from
Planters.
this corner to the ocean.
Uh-huh.
This is Planter Drive here, really,
Right,
instead of
uh-huh.
Burton Drive.
Uh-huh.
This
Way
far.
back in the early days, John, the post office was over here, and there were about 6 brothers lived over here, and one of them was the postmaster, and the post office was called Planter.
I see.
That was before the railroad came through.
Uh-huh.
And when the railroad came through, they named it Tavernier.
Now, Rodney told me that there used to be a pier down here where the big steamboat, the side wheeler, used to come in.
Oh yeah, it was a little pier way out there.
Right on the end of this street, huh?
Before the railroad, we used to get our mail on that steamboat.
Right.
And that way they would dock there and put the mail out and pick up the mail.
Uh-huh. And he told me that they used to load the pineapples and the freight on board the side wheeler there and
Yeah.
take it back up.
Yeah, I don't remember about that, but I do remember them bringing and leaving the mail out there.
Yeah, uh-huh. Isn't that something?
Yeah, had ice cream parties out there, so Valda told me,
Is that right? Ice cream parties out on the pier.
here on Sundays.
Uh-huh, yeah. That's something. And Harold, what year did you build your house up there?
I started it in 26, and that was the big hurricane in Miami, remember?
Right.
And we got the tail end of it. Anyway, I had just started the frame up and I wasn't finished bracing, and that twisted the frame around so that different ones told me, says, Harold, if I were you, I'd just pull that down and stack the lumber and wait till after hurricane season, which I did. So it was, I was 26, about 27 and 28 is really when I built that.
I see.
It took me a long time because I did all of that in my spare hours. I was postmaster and I didn't have much time to work on the house.
I see. What year did you become postmaster?
And I'm going to think a minute. Oh my gosh, what year did I become?
Was it 27?
26 or 27, because Merlin was the postmaster for 10 years,
Uh-huh.
and he resigned in 26, I think,
Uh-huh.
and then I became postmaster.
I see.
Yeah, but either 27 or 28 is when I was commissioned postmaster.
I see.
Isn't his house lovely now?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. I just took pictures of your house from the street.
Oh, did you?
Uh-huh. Right there across catty corner so that I could take a picture of the post office, wherever it is now. And then I just swung the camera right across and took a picture down the highway, you know.
Yeah.
And then took a picture of the house and the cistern and all that.
It's not my house anymore, you know.
No, I know that,
It's
yeah.
always your house. It'll never
Uh-huh.
be anybody else's house.
That's true. Uh-huh.
In
You
our
know,
minds.
Yes, right.
John, so many people came to me wanting to buy that place, and I would always say, I have no intention of ever selling it as long as I live.
Uh-huh.
And one evening, May's sister was had dinner with some friends down on Plantation Key,
Uh-huh.
and later that evening when they were bringing her home, was Ruth and Jean Steck. And as they passed my place, Ruth says, "Oh, look," says, "Harold's house is all lighted up." Well, they knew it shouldn't be, you know.
Uh-huh.
So they went across and told Everett, my nephew,
Yeah.
and he called the sheriff department. They sent a man up there, and May's sister was, and her friends were still in the yard, and they said this deputy went there, and he banged on the side of the house and says, "Come on down." And this little black Haitian came down, opened the door,
Uh-huh.
and they asked him how long he'd been in there. He said he'd been in there about a week.
So he
You
just...
see, I wasn't over there to look after it, and
Uh-huh.
so I decided I better get rid of it then.
Yeah, while the time was right.
Yeah.
Well, the
Uh-huh.
nice thing is she did not change it a bit. She restored it just as it was,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which I think is very nice.
Uh-huh.
What, May?
She did not change it, you know. Remember, she told you that she did not want to make any change. She wanted it to remain as you had built it.
Yeah.
And on the, of course, she has done a lot on the inside, new windowsills and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But she really has not changed it.
Yeah.
It looks just as he built it.
Uh-huh. Well, I've never been inside, so I'm gonna have to go over and go inside
Oh,
when I leave here.
well, I think you would enjoy seeing it.
Uh-huh,
She has
yeah.
an art shop downstairs.
Uh-huh. Will she allow you upstairs?
Well, yes, if you want to go upstairs, I'm sure she won't mind.
Uh-huh,
As long
okay.
as, now, I don't know whether she allows the public, but
Right.
if you're related to Harold.
Right,
so
uh-huh.
She probably.
Uh-huh, that's fine.
You say she's related to me.
No, I am.
Oh,
Indirectly,
Indirectly,
in a way
we
off,
always think
in a way off,
Yeah.
thing. I'm, you might say by marriage I am
Yes,
related,
yes.
way down the line.
Well, she's a nice person. Let's see, I've got to think of her name, May.
What is it?
Catherine Nash.
Catherine Nash.
Catherine Nash, uh-huh. Well, Shirley will, be pleased to see these filmed, and, she tells me about the good time she had. She can't believe how nice you people were to her when she was a little girl. She used to come down here and spend a lot of the time during the
Yeah.
summer, and she said I must have just pestered them to death. But she said they were always so nice. I guess it was Rodney that used to take her out in the rowboat.
I remember, well, she
Did
and I went out the
you went out in the
once or
rowboat?
twice, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I remember one time she was down here, I can't remember who it was, that took her out fishing, deep sea fishing.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I was down on the dock when they came in,
Yeah.
but I can't remember who that was.
That was probably Charlie
Yeah, I guess it was.
and possibly Charlie's father, I don't know. But they came down here fishing, and
Yeah.
in fact, they've got, I think, some pictures of your dock back
Yeah,
then.
I guess so.
I'm not sure.
Isn't that strange? I can't think of Charlie's last name.
I can't either.
You don't remember, do you?
No,
May?
I didn't know.
Oh, that's right.
I
You
think
were
Yeah.
that was the.
But anyway, she tells me that you used to tell her, don't stick your fingers over the side of the boat because barracudas will bite them off.
Used to do what?
Don't put your fingers over the side of the boat in the water because the barracudas will bite them off.
Who told her that?
That's what you used to tell her.
No, it must have been somebody else because I don't believe all these tales we hear
Yeah, that's what they-
barracudas.
That's what they used to tell her when she was little. It was Rodney or somebody,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't think barracudas hardly would attack a person. They're too scared of people. I mean, the least little splash in the water, they're gone.
Yeah, she had a lot of fond memories of the place in the post office down there, and when the bus came, remember the Greyhound bus used to stop at the drugstore across the street?
Uh-huh.
She used to love to go over there when the Greyhound bus came.
Yeah. I remember, let's see, what was I going to say now? Oh, a lady and her daughter were down here, somewhere in this area, and the daughter got up against a piling that had these sharp barnacles on it, you know,
Yeah,
and she got her leg cut,
yeah.
and she said a shark bit her.
Oh,
Well, when down, she went to the doctor, and the doctor examined. He said, "No, that wasn't a shark bite." And I think she told him where she'd been. He said that's what it was. That barnacle had cut her leg.
Yeah.
But she thought a shark had bit her.
Uh-huh. Well, was Lucille ever the postmistress too? Was she?
What is it?
Was your sister Lucille? Was she? We call her Mama Crib. Was she
She was postmistress at Rock Harbor.
at Rock Harbor? She was
Yeah,
a postmistress.
but not
I
down
see.
here.
I see. Now that's good to know.
You see, her husband was, her first husband was a section foreman up there,
Right.
and they wanted a post over there, so they got her to take the post over.
I see. Now that was Shirley's grandfather, Crib.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Shirley's grandfather.
It was Sabrina's father, wasn't it?
It was Sabrina's father.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, that's Shirley's grandfather.
Shirley is
Yeah, that's
Sabrina's
right.
daughter.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Sabrina is Shirley's mother,
Yeah, that's right.
and so they lived up in Rock Harbor then, huh?
In the early days, yeah. See, he was a section foreman up there, railroad section foreman,
Uh-huh.
and I had sort of forgotten that was Sabrina's father. Yeah.
Yeah. He had came down here from Georgia,
Yes.
and Sabrina went to live with he and Mama Crib lived in Miami, downtown Miami, and Sabrina came down here and lived with them when she was 19 years old in 1919.
Yeah.
The year was 1919 when Sabrina came down here from Georgia
Yeah.
to live with Lucille
Uh-huh.
and her grandfather,
Uh-huh.
Shirley's grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, Sabrina was a wonderful person.
She
She
certainly
touched the
was.
lives of so many people in such a nice way.
She sure did.
Yeah, but I've said often, I don't know any person that's been missed by more people than she.
That is the truth, yeah.
Yeah.
She had hundreds and hundreds of friends.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure she did.
I've often thought about most anything had come up. If somebody wanted to get something or go somewhere, Sabrina was just like that. I'll take you, or I'll get it for you.
Right, uh-huh.
I remember one time, this is just a little incident, but I wanted one of these oil heaters with a glass globe around them, you know.
Yeah,
And they were priced, the standard price on them was $35. And right away, Sabrina says, "I'll get one for you." Since I can get it wholesale, because I think her brother-in-law was working for the Florida Power and Light.
yeah.
And I gave her the check for $35. And the next weekend she came down, she brought the heater and $7 or $8 and change. She had saved that much on it, you know.
Yeah, uh-huh. She was a fantastic person.
Yes, she was.
I was in Norkins Hospital for 6 weeks, I guess it was. And she came over to see me every day and would bring me just one flower.
Is that right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Every-
I remember when you were at Larkin.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yes, well, you hadn't moved where you are now. You were near her then, at
Yeah.
that time, weren't you?
Right, uh-huh.
That's right.
John, what
Yeah.
about, excuse me,
Go ahead.
what about Carl? Did he get married or?
No, he's living out there where we are.
Oh, is he?
Uh-huh. Not at our place. You know, he lives about, I guess it's about 2.5 miles from us,
Uh-huh.
is all. But Sabrina, when you were in Larkin, Sabrina lived real close, about 3 miles. from
Yes,
us.
not so far.
And then right after that, she moved into our house.
Oh,
She lived with us.
yes, that's right. I remember she
Right.
moved into
Uh-huh,
your house,
yeah.
yes.
I remember when you were in Larkin, and we wanted to get over there to see ourselves, and we didn't make it.
And she came every day. And Harold was in the hospital a little later,
Uh-huh.
and she would spend the night. He was on, so that he would not pull the.
Bandage.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, I remember one,
she
they
sat
had
all night
there was
with
a
him.
nice chair there, I remember one night she sat in that chair all night.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, she's a fantastic person, I tell you.
Yeah.
And just to everybody. I mean, to everyone. But she'll be remembered by everybody.
Yes.
That's for sure. And I've got to go see Lucille and Hazel and Valda now next week and get them on this tape machine here
Oh yeah.
too. So we'll have you all on one tape.
Well, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
So
about Shirley, is she under a doctor's care?
oh yeah, uh-huh.
Well, she
She has a little high blood pressure, but we got that under control right now.
see. Maybe she'll snap out of this suddenly.
Perhaps so, yeah. Mhm.
You never know.
Right. I don't know what I'm going to be taping over here, but this is the real African Queen. The one that Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn made the movie in. I just happened to stumble into the Key Largo Airport Marina, and here it is, sitting up on dry docks. The man has bought it over in Africa, and he's going to refit the whole thing. I read it in the paper, a couple of months ago, and here it is in the boat to show you the mast or anything. I can show you part of the, here's the boiler. Generator starting up in our well. This is the governor and the gearbox back here. They turn the wheel like that. This is the real African Queen. See the old rivets in there and everything? This boat was built and transported passengers and freight in Africa. I thought maybe I'd take a head-on shot of the Island Queen before I go. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to cover up anything else.
And she knew, she said, it's silly, but she said, I'm afraid of water.
My mother was the same way. She almost drowned when she was a baby. And a little girl about 5 years old. And she had a horrible fear of water. Never
You
learned how to
remember
swim.
Barry Fox, Harold?
Yes. You know, John, before my days going to school, the school was here at Atlanta. There wasn't enough children over in Tavernier. And my brother Rodney and his older brothers and sisters, they came over here to school.
Yeah.
And Rodney fell overboard one day and he almost drowned.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was just a little, he was the youngest one. Let's see, it was Vivian, Marilyn, Lorena, and then Rodney. Rodney was the youngest one that was coming over here to school.
Uh-huh.
And he fell overboard, and I didn't know anything about it. Of course, that was before my time, but I've heard them speak of it a number of times.
Uh-huh.
Well, now you see that didn't affect him. He lived on the water and made his living on the water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you never did commercial fish, did you?
Rodney?
No, you.
Commercial fish?
Yeah, uh-huh.
No, not that I remember anything about.
Uh-huh. Rodney was telling me that they didn't have to go out in the Gulf Stream to go fishing. They just fished right in the shallow water. There's so many fish you didn't have to go anywhere to.
Yeah, to get big fish, I think you had to go out, but right straight off from here, just a half a mile, you could catch all the gray grunts you wanted.
Yeah.
Just fast you could pull them in and unhook them.
Uh-huh.
But if you wanted
Now
big,
you can hardly find a fish out there.
I know it.
if
Isn't
you
that
wanted big
awful?
fish, why they'd go out around the reef.
Harold
Uh-huh.
and I used to put a seine around a net
Yeah.
and then get them inside the gills and just, you remember the day Rosemary watched us off your dock with it? And
Yeah, we
she
put
just
the
had
net-
to fit. Here were Harold and I. He was beating the water, you see,
Yeah.
to make them go toward the net, and she said they were jumping over the net as fast as they were jumping in it. But we got enough.
Is that right?
Yes, we did.
Oh, man.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And when you were growing up now, what did you eat mainly for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? That's an important thing, you know, that people are, they don't know what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing
Well, he remembers. Now you remember what you ate.
how my mother and daddy brought up 10 children, and my daddy had no regular income, you know.
Yeah.
During the winter season, he'd grow a few tomatoes, ship them. We'd have to ship them from here to Key West on the freight boat. Then they would be put on a Clyde and Mallory line steamer that would stop into Key West.
Yeah.
They'd be shipped to New York.
Yeah.
And go from Miami to New York by this Clyde and Mallory line.
Steamboat, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what did you eat? Do you remember what you had for breakfast?
Well, that was quite a problem. I'll tell you, my mother, sometimes she would take, well, she always had a little flock of chickens in the yard.
Oh, yeah.
We seldom had to buy eggs. They produced enough eggs.
Uh-huh.
And my mother would take 1 or 2 cans of potted meat and mix 1 or 2 eggs with it and
Yeah.
make fried patties out of that.
I see.
And of course, we always had grits
Yeah.
for breakfast.
Uh-huh.
And then sometime we'd have canned sausage. If anybody was going to town, we'd always have them bring back some fresh beef, you know.
Yeah. Now, when you say going to town, what was town?
Miami.
That was, if you were going to town, you were going a long way, weren't you?
That's right.
And you had to go by what at that time? By boat.
Well, the early days, yeah, they went by boat. My brother Rodney had the first motorboat over there, I think. And not regularly, but just once in a while, he'd need to go to Miami for some things, you know, and sometimes he'd go in that boat. And I remember sometime it'd be late getting away from Miami, and it'd be after dark when we'd get down here, but we knew the way so well, you know, we'd get off in what they call the Hawks Channel.
Right.
And come on down, there was no obstruction there.
Uh-huh.
And
that was in 1920, huh?
uh,
Or before the railroad, huh?
yeah, that was, well, no, the time I'm talking about was not before the railroad, but I can remember some things before the railroad. I can remember when they were cutting the line for the railroad.
Is that right? When they
Yeah.
pushed all the trees down and things.
Well, they just cut a line so they could
Survey it.
survey it, yeah.
Uh-huh. Did they cut all those trees by hand or machine of some sort?
Well, I'll tell you what they did. It was new to us. They had a drag line, and they'd put a cable around a little group of trees, and then that drag line would just yank them out.
Snatch them right down.
Yeah.
So that was a steam-powered drag line, fired by coal, probably.
I guess that was run by gasoline, I would imagine.
Think they had a gasoline engine then?
I think that drag line, I believe, was operated by gasoline.
Uh-huh.
I can remember that they'd put this cable around a group of trees, and then they'd hook that boom onto it, and that boom would just yank that bunch of trees out. That was new to us, because before then all we knew was chopping them down with an axe.
Yeah, right. And that thing moved right on across the ground then on big old tracks, huh?
What is it?
It moved across the ground on big old tracks.
Yes,
Big tracks like a tank?
Well, no, I think it just had what do they call that? Like a tractor, you know, crawl.
Right. Tractor tracks.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Well, that had to be a fabulous era. Did you have any rattlesnakes down here?
rattlesnakes?
Yeah, years ago when you were growing
There
up.
were a few, but they never were plentiful. And as people kept coming in, of course everyone found a rattlesnake, we'd always try to kill it,
Yeah.
and they never did become plentiful.
Uh-huh. I see. And then you did, your farming was down here was mostly tomatoes then, huh?
Tomatoes and limes, yeah.
And limes.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. And Rodney told me that your father homesteaded 145 acres, is that right?
Yeah, he and his two brothers.
He and his two brothers.
Yeah. And
And-
then for a good many years they worked together on that place, and then in later years they decided to divide it. They each had got 1/3 of that
I
land,
see.
you know.
And that stretched from the bay to the ocean, didn't it?
That's right.
All the way across.
Yeah.
And now where did your father come from?
My
And his
father
brothers.
was born in the Bahamas, and I'd heard him say over and over that he came over here when he was either 6 weeks or 6 months. He couldn't remember for sure whether it was 6 weeks or 6 months.
How old he was?
Yeah.
He couldn't remember for sure.
No.
Uh-huh.
And of course he came up here from Key West. When they came from the Bahamas, they went to Key West, his people.
Uh-huh.
And when he came up here to the Keys, up Tavernier, they moved up here from Key West.
Yeah. Now, do you have any idea what year it was when he came up here from Key West? Do you have any idea? Was it 1880 or what?
I don't know, really, I have no idea. I'd have to
Just guess.
sort of guess at it. Let me see if I can think of anything. Now, it was before the railroad came through here.
Right, yeah. What year were you born now?
18